Welcome to Vernacular Reality, the VR-focused extension of Language Matters by Diplomatic Language Services. Join me, Blythe Collins, as I explore how a language company can implement virtual reality as a learning tool. Welcome to the first episode of Vernacular Reality. I'm talking to my coworkers here at Diplomatic Language Services. Sean Macbeth is our immersive software developer.
Hi, everybody.
And Chris Bellis is our president.
Hello.
So to start out, can you guys tell the audience a little bit about DLS and our background, and then kind of go into what made DLS decide to bring VR into language learning?
Yeah, absolutely. So Diplomatic Language Services was started in 1985 by the former Assistant Dean of the Foreign Service Institute. And the business was started to provide individualized, tailored, one-on-one language instruction, mostly to foreign service professionals and then eventually, people in various roles within the government. And so you have a lot of people that maybe don't fit the semester schedule or too fast, too slow, the requirements, language requirements where they're traveling to or are more specific. So they set up this school, sort of literally across the street back in 1985 in Arlington, Virginia, to serve all of those students. So since then, the company has grown. We've gotten into a lot of different other services. But in terms of VR, we really identified that there was a really good opportunity in that individualized, tailored, one-on-one language instruction. That's really the core of the business.
Awesome. Okay, and for Sean, for those of us who have never used VR, can you give an overview about what it is and also how it differs from AR?
Sure. So virtual reality, augmented reality, they're both parts of different kind of ends of the spectrum of what we call immersive software. And I think when you hear that word immersion, it ties directly into some of our core beliefs in language learning about, the best way to learn things is to be immersed within them. So we try to replicate that using technology and being able to put a head-mounted display on a person that has LCDs inside of them that you can have a sort of like a viewmaster look into a fantastical world and move around within it, kind of completely disconnected from where you are in the real world. Kind of create these different opportunities for people to experience things without necessarily having to travel to them. So, it's all about kind of creating new environments that people can bring themselves into and experience things as if they were really there. And so that's kind of virtual reality. And then sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum is augmented reality, which has a lot of the same goals of giving people a feeling of the reality of a fantastical object. But we kind of approach it from a different direction of, instead of bringing the user into a fantastical environment, we bring the fantastical elements into the user's environment. And so, kind of have that sort of bidirectional focus within the immersive software industry of, are we asking users to react to something that we've created for them, or are we creating something that reacts to the user?
Makes sense. That's an easy to follow definition. So thank you. So how did you guys decide that DLS in particular was ready to move into the VR space?
Well, I think we really got serious about it when our customers really started asking us to seriously look into this. And when we first started looking into this, I think we expected that there was going to be a lot of people out there that were further down the road on this specifically, in terms of VR, AR applications for language learning specifically, and really more for what we do in terms of preparing people, for an overseas mission. And in reality, it turns out that, maybe we were a little bit early on and we could get out in front of this wave if we started paddling now. So, I remembered how sort of inspired I was when the Microsoft HoloLens first came out, and sort of an idea, at least initially, of some of the demos and things with Minecraft and stuff like that they were putting out. So in circling back to that and saying, okay, there probably is a real opportunity here, but we really need to design something that is specific for what we do at DLS, because what we do is very specific. And what we do is meant to be really about, for each individual student, how can we set them up for success? And so we really felt like we just needed to bring somebody in that, had some vision for that and, an appreciation for what we do and, a good understanding of all of the things that are possible, or all the things that the technology can do and make possible. And so, it wasn't until I think we actually sort of, for me, put on the headset and experienced, a complete, proof of concept version of our own product to where I felt like that same inspiration of like being put into, in this case, Tasha Village in China and, walking around a Tulo building and experiencing, that firsthand to say like, okay, yes. I mean, like I've had this experience of feeling like this is real, this is immersive in a way that is both very, congruent with, I think, the experiences, at least I had, in learning Chinese in college and, what I've seen and witnessed over the years at DLS. I think since then we've gotten really excited about it. We're looking at ramping it up. We're just looking at bringing somebody on board to help Sean augment the team. And yeah, everybody's thrilled to be working on this.
Yeah, when I got the call from DLS that they were interested in hiring me, and started learning more about the company, it seemed like somebody was writing a fiction about my life. Hearing like one of our biggest clients is the Defense Language Institute, and that's how my parents met. Was at DLI, and that's how I am a person is because of the need to train people in foreign languages, we look at the education industry as a whole, and there's really a lot of interest in improving learning outcomes and different uses of technology to get students to learn better or more comfortably or faster or retain knowledge better. And there's really a large growing body of science showing that this concept called embodied cognition is a really important tool to bring students down that path of learning. And embodied cognition is this idea of not just dumping information on a student, not just telling them something or giving them text to read, but engaging them physically, engaging them emotionally in an activity, and really sort of activating different brain regions, different cognitive areas within the brain, to reinforce that learning, to create different neural pathways, to be able to really kind of dig that information down into somebody's brain. We've seen it in use in fighter pilot training for 40 years. The very best fighter pilots start off in virtual reality simulations. We see that it gets people competent at flying far faster than just book learning. Firefighters have started using it. I've built applications for warehouse workers to be able to learn how to repair industrial equipment. Things that would be normally incredibly expensive to take offline for even a few minutes. Here they can simulate doing it as if it were real. Or like Walmart. Just a few years ago, Walmart made big news in the virtual reality industry. Multi-million-dollar contract to use VR to train in their warehouse operations, to train people how to work efficiently and safely within their gigantic logistics machine. So there's really a lot of big wins that I think we can have in terms of using these virtual environments to teach people things that are difficult to teach just by book learning, are difficult to teach in the real world because they're expensive to set up, or they're dangerous to do, or they're just not physically available to do. Speaking of physical availability, we're seeing a huge use of virtual reality in sort of teleconferencing situations. With the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of a lot of conferences had to be canceled, and a lot of them have moved to teleconferencing or virtual reality. And we've kind of seen how people have felt a little bit of dissatisfaction with teleconferencing. It's not really a complete replacement for a face-to-face conversation, but when we start doing it in virtual reality, we start to get a little more of that feeling of being in a real place with talking with real people. It's something as simple as just being able to direct your attention to a specific person. Where you have a standard teleconferencing app, you have this grid of faces all staring back at you, like you're in some sort of interrogation. Even if they're talking to somebody completely else, they still look like they're looking at you. And you have the camera and you have the screen, and they're offset from each other. You can never really look at a person directly in the eye. But when you're in VR, you can have this simulation of a face-to-face conversation that feels so much more real. And then, these two areas that are such big wins for virtual reality right now, when you think about what we do as a business, what do? We train people for social interactions. So we're, this really kind of an amazing opportunity to put this technology to use.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would guess that this is particularly timely right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we first, were planning or designing, developing this, the concept for this product, I think we always had online in mind, and how we're designing and building it, is really meant to perform well, where you've got people geographically distributed anywhere. And I think that's great, so we were thinking that before this all came up. And, we did successfully transition all of our in-person classes that weren't already online. As of March 16th, all of those, transitioned to online, and we've continued steadily to do that since then. We're planning to continue to do that for as long as necessary. And we were really fortunate, early on, a lot of the feedback was very positive, and it was very focused about, thanking us about making the transition quickly and swiftly. But since then, we've actually gotten some really good feedback that the experience has been great. And we've gotten all types of great content from students and instructors about, feedback, to be able to sort of get a sense of what that experience is like. But yeah, there is a big opportunity with VR, and in some of the ways that Sean just mentioned, that connection is a real value in the student and instructor experience. Somebody told me once that, you can't influence like a system or an organization that you're not connected to. And I think it's the same way with a person. So I think in so many of the missions that our students have, if they're not able to connect with the people, in the places that they're going to, that mission might end up suffering. And in the short run, to make that connection between the student and instructor strong so that the learning experience is positive throughout. This is definitely an opportunity to do that. And I think we try to design the product, again, not just, from a technical perspective in terms of doing it online, but also making sure that we weren't disintermediating all the good stuff that's already happening in the classroom between the students and instructors. Because, the materials, another thing somebody told me is the materials makes up maybe, 10, 15 at the most, sort of percent of really, what important happens in the classroom. 85% of it, that's the instructor. And so, part of the goals of this product is to empower everyone with these tools. And so, I think, we're excited, to be able to use this as a way to enhance the online experience if this continues on, in terms of the COVID pandemic for a while. But also, I think we're hoping that, even for when people are in the same building together, that they will, get excited about, the VR portion of their language learning experience, and having that being an integrated part of their programs at DLS, even when they're then conducted in person.
Right. It sounds exciting. Can you guys tell me anything about what you are developing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, to kind of support that idea of, enhancing what we already do well. Our first concept is this sort of guided tour through a foreign city. So we've acquired some imagery of a Chinese tourist town, and we've overlaid lesson material within it. And then you basically visit this town with your teacher and walk around with them as they give you a guided tour of this area, and role play different scenarios, like maybe going to a restaurant and buying a meal, or asking directions to get to a hotel, renting a hotel, or buying souvenirs at a little market. And it's really kind of like it's really an incredible sort of experience. I mean, technology wise, it's relatively simple technology, but I think sometimes that's some of the best uses of technology, to really just get to a core idea. I don't know. I've spent so much time like testing this app out. I feel like I can get around this town. Like I know the streets now. And somebody will ask me as we're working on it, well, where was that little kiosk again? And like, oh, well, you go down this street and you turn left and you go around the corner. And to be able to give a person directions in a town that neither of you have ever been to, that's amazing. How do you replicate that in another way? And I don't know.
Yeah, sounds as immersive as you can get without being there.
Right, without spending thousands of dollars on a plane ticket.
So when can we get our hands on this? What do you guys have planned for the next few months?
Yeah, so we're constantly making improvements to the Tasha Village experience that Sean just described, and then all of the components of our VR system. So, and we'll hopefully, continue to make, improvements like that for years to come. But I think we're really excited to hopefully be able to start integrating the virtual reality, like the starting with this example of the Tasha Village Chinese language experience, to be able to really, integrate that into some of our Chinese language programs. I mean, I think, part of the benefit to this, and I think part of why our customers are looking for a language services business to do this and to integrate all of this, is because that integration requires a lot. There's training the students and instructors for a new type of experience, as we needed to do for the online training. There's all of the instructional design and curriculum integration type of stuff that's sort of beyond me to really understand. But I do see the value of it, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that sort of come together to where we've got really complete, programs where this is an integral part of it that enhances it in ways that people are like, yes, this was a gap for us before, and we filled it for VR in a really elegant way. It's going to make, our ability to build out, programs for all types of students and needs going forward, and to set people up for success in all types of new experiences. Currently, our plan is to integrate our virtual reality experience for Chinese into our Chinese language programs by November of 2020.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to it. And Sean and Chris, thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm looking forward to learning more about virtual reality on our next episode of Vernacular Reality. And thank you both so much.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Vernacular Reality. I hope you'll continue the conversation with us by searching Diplomatic Language Services on Facebook and LinkedIn, following us on Instagram at DC Language, or tweeting us at DiplomaticLS.